Okay. Um, all of our teachers and all the stuff that we study and listen to in Buddhism is always aimed at one target when all's said and done. And it's addressing this very deep primordial wish to be happy. And just for a minute, just eliminate all of your thoughts about, you being a human being and in this life and in this on this planet. Just kind of try to imagine yourself as just a consciousness unconnected with a storyline, unconnected with any particular appearance, but this consciousness um, is seeking what we would call happiness. And another term that might be in this state of being that's free of storylines, the state of being might just be, content with things as they are. And for all the complicated conceptual elaborations that we concoct once we enter into a lifetime such as the one we're in, all of that is you must begin to think of it as noise. It's as if we've drawn on a sketchbook all these complicated, horrible drawings of a seemingly external world, but it's all coming from us. Though we don't much talk about this view, our classes are primarily aimed at practical thoughts about practical application in our day-to-day life. It's very important, nonetheless, to have in the background always kind of this really unbelievable fact floating around so that you can continuously tap into it in your life to see, is this really true? And how could this be true? And the thought is, Geshe Nima mentioned this recently, the thought is essentially very much aligned with the philosophy of what we call the mind-only school, which is that all of the appearances, once you take your consciousness out of that unformed state that I mentioned earlier, and you put it into a vehicle such as we have, with physical senses such as we have, we tend to then create this false sense of in here and out there. So we use the terminology subject and object. But this is like the core thing that sets Buddhism apart. Geshe Nima the other day on the phone had just mentioned that something in passing almost that to understand that there is no external object is another way to understand what we're talking about when we talk about emptiness. So, all of that, I mean, we're not seeking anything that's other than happiness or a contented, satisfied state of consciousness. And because of the apparatus that has evolved, that we have evolved into, it appears like there's this out of control world out there. And then through our desperation, almost, you could say, we find a Buddhist path because it makes sense to us. And we try it out. And so once we think it's working, that's when we take refuge. We use this term. It's not protecting us from anything other than our delusional thoughts. And then ultimately, it is said, the ultimate thing in alignment with this, the thing you are actually taking refuge in a certain sense, in a definite sense, is your ability, the fact that we can drop all of the false elaborations and come back into a state of awareness, of a contented state of existence. That's what we're taking refuge in, is that is the potential that we have. It's really merely up to us to decide to grab that and go for it. And once you could say we take refuge, because within the strength of that conviction that this is possible, is that one then sustains you over all of what it takes to untie the knots of all the accumulated delusional thoughts that we clump onto ourselves over countless lifetimes. So with that in mind, we're taking refuge. And we'll just say it in English. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by listening to teachings and the other paramitas. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by listening to teachings and the other paramitas. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by listening to teachings and the other paramitas. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for their enemies. And just take a minute to imagine the bliss of equanimity. It is the same as contentedness. This is what we wish for all sentient beings. And in this path, we're told that by accomplishing this, we accomplish it for all sentient beings. By accomplishing equanimity. All right. I neglected to suggest that we imagine them Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So now with this merit field, we won't say it as usual, but we'll recall that despite the fact that our current sense faculties don't permit us, they're limited in their wavelengths that they can apprehend, so we can't see the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas due to our limitations. But imagine if you were a completely enlightened, omniscient being who was aware of all sentient beings and their needs. Of course, that being the case, of course, we're surrounded by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas all the time, and especially have access to their inspiration from them when we recall them. So we recall them now. Whether we have the sense faculties to see them or not, they're here. And then, of course, we too see the beings that have in the same realm we're in. So we know factually that we're surrounded by sentient beings. So these two come together in this when we recall our situation, surrounded by holy enlightened beings who are available to inspire us, and us being companions of all sentient beings. Um, and with that sort of clump of awareness, we'll say the seven limb prayer with the idea that, again, I mentioned this last week, but it is increasingly, I'm more and more aware that the seven limb prayer has some kind of hidden formula in it. I haven't cracked the code, but I invite Allison, recommend just continuously go back to it when you can and think about why is it that they say that these 7 lines are so pivotal? Why is it always part of our practice? And why is this so why is it so essential in our lineage? So let's just say it and just remember to give it some thought and try to crack the code in your own way. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merits of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until samsara ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate the merit created by myself and others to the great enlightenment. And that great enlightenment we envision as this merit field, or this mandala offering, sorry. We abide within this mandala, and as we clean up our perception and purify our negative tendencies, this mandala comes more and more into focus, kind of like a Polaroid picture that's coming into focus. The mush of our contamination goes away and is replaced by this beautiful, uncontaminated realm. Sashi Praki Joshi Meto from Rirambinji Nidegen Adi Sangye Jindu Mite Uwadi Drogunam Dakshimla Chapasho Idam Guru Ratnamandapam Yadayam. Over to you.
Thank you. That segues perfectly into the opening meditation that we're going to do. This is a meditation that was given to us by Geshe Nima. We begin by visualizing or imagining a very large lotus seat in the space above and in front of us. Upon that lotus seat or throne, imagine a red sun disk resting beneath a white moon disk. The sun refers to the wisdom of emptiness, and the moon refers to the unconditional love of bodhicitta. The moon of bodhicitta symbolizes method, and the sun of wisdom symbolizes wisdom realizing emptiness. Upon that seat of sun and moon, your guru, in the form of Manjushri, is seated. Above your guru, you visualize Lama Tsongkhapa, in the form of Manjushri. Above Lama Tsongkhapa, you visualize Manjushri himself. Above Manjushri, you visualize Buddha Shakyamuni or Vajradhara, again in the form of Manjushri. So all four gurus in the space in front of you are in the form of Manjushri. As we visualize them in our mind before us, we turn to them with the following prayer. Please, my Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, stay upon me and bless me. Help me to eliminate all my negativity, including disrespect and distrust toward my Guru, and grasping at self and phenomena, including my own self-centered attitude. Please, my Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, stay upon me and bless me. Help me to achieve all the realizations, including unwavering faith and trust in my gurus, until I attain all the good qualities, including the enlightened state of Buddhahood. Please, my Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, stay upon me and bless me. Help me to clear away all obstacles that hinder the achievement of my goals in this life and in the next, until I attain liberation and Buddhahood. Now imagine lots of nectar emitting from the four gurus who are in the form of Manjushri, coming toward you as light that enters you through the crown of your head. When we think about our negative actions of body, speech, and mind that we have ignorantly engaged in the past, out of attachment or aversion, we remember that these afflictive emotions and negative actions have imprinted our mental continuum as if they were a poison. Without the antidote to this poison, we will experience great suffering. So we regret having engaged in these negative actions because they not only have harmed others, they are harming ourselves. This regret is called the opponent power of regret. Now we think everything is interdependent. The self I think of as me is interdependent. I don't exist as an independent being. I am actually empty of any kind of independent existence. So according to your own understanding of this, think of yourself as being empty of inherent or independent existence. Whether that understanding is completely correct or not Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Think about emptiness. And then generate yourself in the form of a deity upon whom you can rely. Generate yourself in the form of Manjushri, the same as the gurus in the space in front of you. Now imagine coming from the hearts of the gurus in front of you is Vajradhara, Vajrasattva, Vajrasattva. And Vajrasattva comes to the crown of your head. Vajrasattva is the great purifier of all defilements, obscurations, and obstacles. You are now in the form of Manjushri, and above you is Vajrasattva. This is the power of reliance. Now we practice the third opponent power, the power of the remedy. Since we are now generated as Manjushri, our body by nature is not contaminated. Imagine your body is like a balloon of light. The inside is empty, but at the moment, it is full of a filthy black substance, which represents all our negative actions of body, speech, and mind that have been imprinted on our mental continuum. Imagine or visualize that nectar in the form of powerful white light is emitting from Vajrasattva above your head. This nectar enters your body through your head and purifies the black substance that represents your negative karma of physical actions, pushing it from the top downward until finally all the black karma of negative actions of your body exit through the lower part of your body. Imagine this now as we recite the Vajrasattva mantra. Om Benzasata Samaya Manupalaya Benzasato Tena Petika Suto Kyoyo Mewa Supu Kyoyo Mewa Anuratu Mewa Savasidi Metrayatsa Sarva Kama Sutsame Setam Shriram Kuru Hum Ha 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 Hom Bhagavana Sarva Tata Gata Benzamame Munja Benzabawa Mahasamaya Sato Ahum Pe. Now imagine the nectar from Vajrasattva goes down to the base of your body and purifies the black substance representing the negative karma of all of your verbal actions, your speech, pushing it from the bottom upward until finally it exits your body through the top of your head as we recite the Vajrasattva mantra. Om Benzasata Samaya Manupalaya Benzasato Tena Petika Driro Mevawa Sutukyo Mevawa Supukyo Mevawa Tumevawa Savasidi Metrayatsa Sarva Kama Sutsame Setam Shiram Kuru Hum Ha 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 Om Bhagavana Sarva Tata Kata Benzamame Munja Benzabawa Samaya Sato Ahum Pe. Finally, visualize Vajrasattva emitting nectar in the form of light coming into your body through your head, purifying all of the remaining black substance in your upper body, pushing it downward. At the same time, imagine light nectar from Vajrasattva at the base of your body, purifying all of the remaining black substance in your lower body, pushing it upward. The upward flowing nectar and downward flowing nectar meet at the center of your body and squeeze out all of the black negative karma of your mind and habitual negative ways of thinking. They squeeze it out through your middle, where it exits your body, dissipates, and disappears. You receive the blessing of your gurus and all the Buddhas. You feel your mind is cleansed of all deluded thought and distraction and all negativity, like the bright light of the sun. As we recite the Bodhisattva mantra one more time. Om Benza Sato Samaya Manopalaya Benza Sato Tena Pedika Liriro Gavawa Sutukyo Yomavawa Supukyo Yomavawa Asawasi Dimitrayata Sarvakama Sutame Tsetam Shriram Kudo Hunga Ha 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 Ho Bhagawana Sarva Tathagata Benza Mame Munja Benza Bhava Maha Samaya Sato Aho. Just abide in that equanimity. This is the opponent power of the remedy. The fourth opponent power is called the power of resolve. This refers to making the resolve never to repeat the negative actions of body, speech, and mind again. We also resolve to follow the precepts of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha because we want happiness and we don't want suffering. So through this kind of practice, we are able to purify our negative karma of body, speech, and mind. Now we move on to the teaching that Geshe Nima gave in the fifth session, which relates to the meditation and practice that we just did. So here is the transcription. Among sentient beings, there are different kinds of mental dispositions. In order to change these specific and particular mental dispositions, Buddha gave different kinds of teachings. For us, we study different kinds of books. We rely upon different kinds of teachers and teachings. Some people study under very popular, highly realized, great gurus. They study with them and personally receive teachings from them, but they never change. Others go to a teacher who is not popular, a very simple geshe or a simple monk. They receive teachings from that teacher and are totally changed. This means that whether we change or not does not totally depend upon the teacher. The teacher and disciple have some karmic connection or karmic bond. For example, there's a story about a Bodhisattva who was weeping all the time. He's called the Weeping Bodhisattva. This Bodhisattva's karma was to receive teachings under Lama Chupa, his guru. On the way to finding his guru, he met many, many great bodhisattvas and Buddhas. So in our mind, we might think, why was he looking for Lama Chupa? He met many Buddhas. Why didn't he request those Buddhas to give him teachings? is because those Buddhas were not connected with him karmically. If they were to teach him, it wouldn't help. It wouldn't impact his mental continuum. So with each and every teaching that we study, different books, different commentaries, we test for ourselves how we are relying upon those different teachings. If a teacher, when they're giving a teaching or explaining some important point, has an impact on our mind, we hold that in our mind and examine it. Before we rely upon someone as our teacher, we should examine them in many ways. Does that guru have the quality of a teacher or not? From my side, do I have the quality of a student or not? So examine this in the proper way. Finally, you feel in your mind, if I rely upon that guru, then no problem. I can rely upon him or her for my whole life without looking for the fault of that guru. Then, after that, we practice under his or her guidance and advice, and then we hope to get some kinds of realizations. Otherwise, Geshe Nima says it's like going to the market to look for clothing or some other thing. If you buy a good quality shoe in one store, and then you go to another store and you find a better quality shoe, you think, oh, the shoe I found in the first store is not good quality, because this shoe in this store is better. Sometimes we feel like that. We'll meet one guru, and then we meet another guru who we think is better. Whether that guru is better or not is not from the guru's side. Remember what Kabira was saying. Geshe Nima just spoke to us a couple of days ago on the phone, and he mentioned that there is no objective existence. There is no objective existence out there. Everything is subjective. Everything has to do with our own mind, our own mental continuum, and our own propensity and habits. And this is, we project all of that onto what appears to be out there. But there is no objective existence. This is actually the meaning of emptiness and the dependent arising nature of subject and object. So whether the guru is better or not, it's not from the guru's side. This is on your own side. So you examine this well. Some disciples examine their gurus for 20 years. Before relying upon a teacher as your guru, you examine him or her very well, because this is connected with your own ability to have realizations. We're not just studying, oh, that's Amazon. We're not just studying about some kind of language or some kind of history. This is about connecting with our own ability to have realizations. So the guru that we connect with is very important, because that guru is the one who is going to help us have realizations. So realization is related with how well, not how much, but how well we rely upon our teacher. Realization is related with how well we rely upon our teacher. And then through that, receiving the teaching that they give. From our own side, without changing our mind, we keep going on with our practice. Then we practice meditation. And finally, change will occur. Like the Buddha said, first, you try to change your physical behavior. Then you try to change your verbal behavior, your speech, and then you change your mind. You don't do negative things related to your physical and verbal actions and try to do positive things. Be kind and compassionate. Being kind and compassionate is a little bit easier than changing your perspective, changing your view, changing what you think the nature of existence is. So we start with being kind and compassionate because it's easier for us to do. So he says, don't do negative things, do positive things. And finally, he said, this is my teaching. Tame yourself. Tame yourself. This is very difficult. It takes time to transform yourself. Without changing your views or your outlook, there is no way to change yourself. This refers to the training in wisdom, the training in emptiness, dependent arising, the view. According to the Buddhist perspective, there are many levels of wisdom. We start with the two truths, which we've discussed, the Four Noble Truths, and so on. So this was an important point that Geshe Nima wanted to give before he started in on the teaching, based on the Reign of Accomplishments texts. And he wanted to make that point, and he wanted to share it with us. So he says, now I'd like to continue from our last teaching. Before we move on, any comments or observations or questions about that, relying on the guru and the proper way to do that?
Oh, I was thinking about, I'm going to just mention this for the benefit of anybody who's, I don't know, in case it is helpful, that when when I met, I was looking for a guru. I mean, literally a guru. I wasn't looking, that was the word. So when I met Geshe Drakpa, I felt like I had, been reunited with some long lost friend. However, my attitude, no, I was in a, as we all are familiar with, kind of a psychological, mental, spiritual, just life sort of turmoil about myself and the world, and depressed and dealing with anxiety disorder and all the confusion of things that happen in work in the world and blah 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 blah. And so my attitude towards this guru that I had finally found, who miraculously had come from India, and that I felt a connection with immediately, all the proper things. However, I had a fundamental problem that I never saw for many, many years, which was is that I thought he was going to do something, that it was his job. Somehow meeting him would somehow change me. Somehow he could, and I even said to him one time, can't you just hit me over the head and, I would change? And he kind of laughed. And part of, I think, that resistance to receiving the full benefit of his teaching when he was still alive was that what I ultimately have more recently come to understand is that it was my arrogance that, yes, on the one hand, I was a miserable sentient being who had some kind of karmic propensity to want to find a Buddhist guru, Buddhist monk, Tibetan guru. That was what I was specifically looking for. But I also had, since beginningless time, this incredibly strong arrogance that somehow, I don't know, I don't even know how else to put it. And so that, and it was subtle. If you had seen my behavior and my emotional feeling towards him, it was completely devoted. I was aware of him. I was always thinking about what he needed. I felt very committed to making his teaching available to other people in San Antonio, and worked hard to accomplish that, and stayed in touch, and it always felt, you know, the way I put it after he passed away was like the mountain range that was always in the background of my psyche was gone. It was somehow that was gone. But in some ways, it's only since he was gone that I've had to ponder what would it really mean to take on board his teaching, and what was he. And in some ways, it's only my missing the boat in a way while he was still alive that I've been able to benefit more from, and I have so long to go, but this is all just a long diatribe to say that I mean, what I'm trying to, really the point of my sharing this is that to be aware of the subtle ways that you're sabotaging
Hmm.
your own ability to make the most of the opportunity of meeting with the teachings and teachers, however they show up in your life. Just, we didn't become mired in this contaminated state of consciousness overnight, and there's a pretty strong defense system to protect it, and so you never can tell
Yeah,
what subtle self, I guess I'd use the word self-sabotage,
that's
with regard to your spiritual development.
that's a really good point. And you can sort of, for all of us, it can be distilled down to this arrogance can be distilled down to our self-centeredness. Are we the teaching is that this whole samsaric existence has arisen out of this self-centered attitude, the ego, our own personal ego, which we think of as the king of our kingdom somehow, like that. And so, when a guru, like a qualified guru such as His Holiness the Dalai Lama, then Geshe Nama Drapa, who's connected to His Holiness, Geshe Nima, who's connected to His Holiness, the Geshes that have come into our life, our teachers, are come from this incredible lineage, and yet we still will. I mean, over the years, we'll see them do certain things and go, "Oh, is that a fault? Or am I finding fault in them? Did they do something that's not right?" And this is just our own. It's our own ego is projecting that out there. And it is, as Kavita says, it's a kind of arrogance that we're not aware of as thinking of it as being arrogant. What we need to do is we have to take on board their teachings and recognize that a self-centered attitude is going to be a really big problem. And if the teachings that these gurus are giving us are connecting in any way, and if the guru themselves connects with us in any way, we should hold on to that. We should all of our doubts that we have, we should chalk them up to our own self-centered attitude, our own ignorance about the nature of reality, how things actually exist, and follow those teachings to the best of our ability once we've understood them and they make some kind of logical sense to us. That's what I would say. And it is an extremely long process. I mean, it's been almost 20 years now since we've been practicing this, and it still is, unfolding, and it's, still, all the black gunk that's on our mental continuum keeps, coming up.
I think one of the difficulties is, you use this, you recommended this, and it's true, and yet it's not true. Think about it, and follow it if it makes sense to us. Well, the problem with following what makes sense to you is what makes sense to you is your current state of diluted, all the conclusions you've come to through a long trail of thinking.
I would debate that. I would say we're habituated to that. But if we actually look at our own the way it affects us, we're confused. We don't say, oh, this makes logical sense. Logical
All I'm
sense.
saying is,
We're confused,
all I'm saying is,
but we're
no, what I'm
habituated to it.
saying has to do with, if you rely on whatever makes sense to you, you will often miss the boat, because what makes sense to you is through your current filters of delusion. So you have to.
I'm
No.
saying here are these particular teachings, which are radically different from what we normally think is the way things are. And if this radical different teaching, such as the teaching on the two truths, and that there is no objective reality out there, there's only a subjective existence, if that logically, if you can logically find some sense in that, then yeah, then the Dharma is for you. It's the Dharma is making sense.
Yeah, I guess all I would add to that
Yeah.
is, be careful, because
Of course, be careful.
you're still using, your logic is based on
Right.
where you're at.
For many people, it's
So your
the
logic,
world as it exists.
your logic may be flawed, is my point.
The world as it exists is an objective existence. And
Until you.
All I'm saying is
Why-
your
why
logic
don't-
may be flawed, so logic isn't some kind of immutable. I mean, it's subject to.
well, all right, we're talking scientific method here. And we're talking science of
Never mind,
consciousness.
you seem to have an attitude as if there's some completely reliable consciousness tool we have called logic that is unbeatable, and
Logic.
I'm saying you're
I'm talking about in terms of applying logic to the Dharma teachings.
I know what I get it.
Right.
All I'm saying is be careful, because your logic will lead you down a mistaken conclusion.
My self-centered logic, well, yes.
Mhm.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Self-centeredness is a mistake. It's actually illogical if you look at it properly.
Well, again,
Right. I know what you're saying, but you must know what I'm saying. You have
do know
to.
what you're saying. I'm just saying it's.
No Dharma teacher is going to sit up here and go, this may sound logical, but don't trust it. Don't trust don't trust what you're hearing, because that's that's not helpful.
They actually do say that. They say
you have to test it out. You have to
Yeah.
test it out for yourself with your own
I
logic.
don't know why
Well, but I don't understand why you're seeing was some kind of problem with using logic to test out the Dharma. Because our logic is flawed?
Yes. I'm saying.
The logic that they're teaching
Could
us?
you just listen to what I'm saying? All I'm saying is be cautious, because your logic is subject to mistakes. So when you're using your logic, be aware of that. Is all I'm
Right.
adding.
Right.
I'm not
We're not enlightened at this point. So yeah, we're going to be making
so
mistakes.
Just be humble about what your logic can do for you.
I'm humble about that, but I have an extreme strong confidence in the Dharma teachings that we've been given. And so I just can't say that they aren't logical. I can say I can be illogical, but not the teachings. That's where I'm at. So, I mean, that's just where I'm at. All right. So now he's going on to this teaching, and he says, so as we did before, imagine in the space above and in front of you, there's a big lotus seat with a red sun disk on top of it. That refers to the wisdom of emptiness. On top of the red sun disk, there's a white moon disk seat. This refers to the unconditional love of bodhicitta. Your guru is seated on that seat. Your guru is in the form of Manjushri. Above your guru, you visualize Lama Tsongkhapa in the form of Manjushri. Above Lama Tsongkhapa, you visualize Manjushri himself. And above Manjushri, you visualize Buddha Shakyamuni or Vajradhara, again in the form of Manjushri. So there are 4 gurus. On the big lotus seat is your guru in the form of Manjushri. Above your guru is Lama Tsongkhapa in the form of Manjushri. Above Lama Tsongkhapa is Manjushri himself. Above Manjushri is Vajradhara or Buddha Shakyamuni in the form of Manjushri. So what he's saying is, you imagine that they are there and never forget that they're there in this space in front of you as we continue with the teaching, is what he was saying. So that they are here with us. They continue to be here with us. Just like you were saying in the opening, these enlightened beings are with us all the time. If we are expressing an interest in the Dharma and are looking for guidance and help, of course there are going to be enlightened beings that are there. We can't see them because of our own particular faculties, but it doesn't mean that they're not there, just like you said. So this is what he's saying. Just imagine that they are here with us the whole time while we are having the teaching today. And he said, never forget that they are there. Okay. In connection with the second stanza of the Reign of Accomplishments text, which was about the mindfulness of sentient beings, which talks about how to cultivate great compassion, we discussed how to generate bodhicitta based on great compassion. We talked about how to cultivate bodhicitta through two lineages. The first lineage is the sevenfold cause and effect lineage, and the second is the equalizing and exchanging self with other lineage. Then, as a way to practice both lineages, we talked about synthesizing the two methods of generating bodhicitta. This is what we did last time. We first train in equanimity, then remembering all sentient beings as your mother, then remembering their kindness, then wanting to repay their kindness, then equalizing self and other, reflecting on the demerits of the self-centered attitude, reflecting on the merits of the other-centered attitude, then the actual exchange of self and other, then taking on the suffering of all sentient beings with great compassion. 10 is giving all your happiness to other sentient beings and wishing them love. 11 is the special recollection of the kindness of all sentient beings. And Geshe Nima said, maybe we missed that one in the last class. And he says this is very important. The special recollection of the kindness of all sentient beings. So he said, sentient beings are very important to us. Without sentient beings, it is impossible for us to be a Buddha. Without sentient beings, it is impossible for us to purify our own negativities. I mean, it's true. We couldn't do it. We're seeing negativities all around from other sentient beings, which pisses us off, right? If we don't have them there and have those things that piss us off and make us, engage in negative thoughts and speech and actions, how can we ever do that? How can we ever purify that? We can't. So we need them. We need them. All are happy without sentient beings. We couldn't survive. That's obvious. All our happiness, all our goals, all our achievements arise from sentient beings. All our happiness, all our goals, all our achievements arise from sentient beings. When they have been our mother, they have helped us a lot. When they are not our mother, they continue to help us a lot. Other sentient beings are the source of all our goals, our achievements, and realizations. This bears repeating. Other sentient beings are the source of all our goals, our achievements, and realizations. So because of this, we train in the special recollection of the kindness of sentient beings. Yeah, and I think he did not mention that when he was talking about this before. Because this is For a self-centered being, this is pretty radical. So the next one is altruism, or sometimes we translate it as special resolve. We've already generated unconditional love and great compassion through this method. Now we think that just wishing all sentient beings are free from suffering and its causes is not enough. Now we take all the responsibility upon our own back to eliminate the suffering of all sentient beings and its causes. At that moment, we understand by our own experience, I cannot eliminate the suffering of myself. How could I be able to eliminate the suffering of the whole world of sentient beings? There is no other way to do this but to become a Buddha. To benefit every sentient being, now I will become a Buddha. I wish to be a Buddha for benefiting all sentient beings. So then, following altruism or special resolve, we automatically generate the mind of enlightenment, which is 11, bodhicitta, for benefiting all enlightened beings. Bodhicitta is the mind, bodhi, awakening. Mind, bodhi means awakening, and citta means mind. The awakening mind of enlightenment. So you have a very strong mind accompanied by the aspiration to achieve Buddhahood for benefiting all sentient beings or leading all sentient beings to the deathless state of happiness. These both have the same meaning. To achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of sentient beings or to lead all sentient beings toward the deathless state of happiness is the same thing. To lead all sentient beings toward the deathless state of happiness, then you think, I will become a Buddha for their benefit and well-being. When we talk about this kind of bodhicitta, this is just aspirational bodhicitta. So we pray each and every morning in this way, and we meditate on this kind of practice. This is okay, it's positive, but this is not sufficient. This kind of mind, this aspirational mind, will never lead us to Buddhahood. This is just a virtuous, positive mind, a good mind, an authentic mind. But this is still just a wish. We call this kind of bodhicitta aspirational bodhicitta. It's not engagement bodhicitta. So there's a difference. There's two kinds, aspirational and engagement. So on top of that, if you can, you try to receive the Bodhisattva vows. If you can't, then it's okay. If you don't have the courage or you don't have the determination to receive the Bodhisattva vows, it doesn't matter. On top of your generating bodhicitta, you try to practice the 6 paramitas or the 6 perfections. This is what is mentioned in our opening prayers. So you try to practice the 6 paramitas or the 6 perfections. Otherwise, nothing's going to work. You won't change yourself, is what he's saying. If you don't practice these, you're not going to change. If you have some determination or courage to receive the Bodhisattva vows after generating bodhicitta, then you try to find a living teacher from whom you can receive the Bodhisattva vows. And I know, we've done this with Geshe Nima ourselves. I know others have done this. Other people did this while Geshe Nima was here last time. But that, of course, depends on each individual. It's like we were saying before. If you're not feeling some kind of karmic connection or strong connection to that person, then it's not going to work. As that's what Geshe Nima said. It won't have the effect because you don't have the karmic connection with them. So what you do, if you will have that determination, is you try to find a living teacher from whom you can receive the Bodhisattva vows. Before receiving the Bodhisattva vows, you think well. You think to yourself, I've been practicing bodhicitta. I've been studying about bodhicitta. Now is a very good time for me to receive the Bodhisattva vows. So it is, I remember, it is a big deal. I mean, I remember the first time I took the vows, Bodhisattva vows from Geshe Dragpa. I I saw it as being a big deal, and I saw it as being a real change or shift in my life. And I took it seriously, and I knew that I wasn't going to be successful. I knew I would make, I knew I wouldn't be able to keep the vows. But basically, we were told, don't worry about that. That's bound to happen. That's going to happen. So there are ways to purify all that. We did a purification practice at the beginning of the class. So these kinds of things you take on board. And so you make the decision for yourself. Is this what I want to do with my life? Does this make sense? Does this seem, for me, it seemed like the most important thing one could do in one's life, given the way everything else seemed to be going up to that point and seems to continue to go.
Still is.
Right. So on the special day, you go to the teacher to receive the Bodhisattva vows. Before you receive the vows, whatever virtues you create or accumulate in your day-to-day life are just normal virtues. After receiving the Bodhisattva vows, whatever virtues you create in your day-to-day life are informed by the Bodhisattva vows. This is because your virtues are now the cause of achieving enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Your virtues have now become the cause for achieving enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. This is the purpose of receiving the vows. Before receiving the vows, whatever virtues you create or accumulate are normal virtues. Most of our virtue or merit is related with positive karma, which leads us to a human life in samsara. This kind of positive karma never leads us to nirvana or Buddhahood. For example, without receiving any vows, we practice generosity. We practice not killing or stealing, some of us. We practice these kinds of normal virtues, ordinary positive karma. The nature of this karma leads us to take our next rebirth as a human or perhaps some kind of higher rebirth in samsara, in cyclic existence. Nothing other than this. This is the cause which brings us back to samsara again and again. Once we receive the vows, because of our special pledge or precept, our promise in our heart, our own promise in our own heart. It's not a promise, you're making to someone else other than all sentient beings. It's your own promise in your own heart that's going on here. That's really important. So once we receive the vows, because of our promise in our own heart, then until Buddhahood, we observe these kinds of virtues, these kinds of precepts in order to benefit all sentient beings. So the whole goal of receiving this kind of vow is for benefiting all sentient beings. Until they become Buddhas, I will remain in this world to help them. So your attitude is very extensive. It's very vast. Whatever positive thing you now do is informed by this kind of attitude or this kind of vow. So whatever positive thing you do becomes the cause of achieving Buddhahood, the cause of helping others. So this is the way we need to start thinking about it. Whatever we do, whatever positive thing we do, it is just, it's because of the Bodhisattva vows we've taken, it then becomes part of this path to enlightenment for the benefit of all other beings. After receiving the Bodhisattva vows, or any vow, our positive actions become part of the causes leading to nirvana or leading to Buddhahood. This is amazing and very important. So after we generate bodhicitta, if we have the determination to receive the Bodhisattva vows, then we try to find someone who will give those vows to us. We've spent many lifetimes just wandering in this samsara, but now in this life, because of our former positive karma, we've met the Dharma, and we ourselves have some determination to receive this kind of vow. Now we are very fortunate. And then he looked around the room and he said, most of us, I think, are over 30 here, except for, he was pointing to one bright young gentleman. But he said, I think most of us are over 30. And we have already spent over 30 years in this life, in this world. We don't know how many more years there are left to come for us. In the remaining years that are coming our way, if we receive the Bodhisattva vow and think about benefiting all sentient beings, this is very fortunate. So thinking in this way, we try to receive the Bodhisattva vow. Then, after receiving the Bodhisattva vows, we practice the 6 paramitas in our day-to-day life. And he said, this is a tough one. This is very difficult to do. So I think he'll go into this, but he's continuing a little more with the Bodhisattva vows. So after receiving the Bodhisattva vows, we try to practice the Bodhisattva precepts. The Bodhisattva's precepts prescribe courses of action or conduct that are to be cultivated and those that are to be discarded or avoided. The conduct or actions that are to be avoided or discarded are the 18 root transgressions and the 46 secondary transgressions. And when I send the next study guide out, I'll put those as part of that, so that we will have those. We were given those before, but in case they've gone missing, I'll put them in the study guides. We should never engage in the actions that are in these 18 root transgressions and the 46 secondary transgressions. If students wish to take the Bodhisattva vow, they should study a little bit about the 18 root transgressions and the 46 secondary transgressions. But then in our day-to-day life, if sometimes we break those precepts, don't worry. It's not the end of the world. You haven't fallen off the path and it means you can't continue. All we do is we purify and then we renew our vows again. So we go through a purification process similar to the one that we did before class this morning. It's something along those lines. We are not Buddhas and Bodhisattvas yet. We are ordinary beings. And sometimes we break the rules. So we just feel regret, then we purify, and then we renew our determination, we renew the vows, we renew, these courses of action that will help us to become enlightened for the benefit of all beings. So we do this, we do this in this way again and again, over and over and over, and eventually, there'll be, in my own experience, I've found that there are certain kinds of actions, such as killing. I don't think I really ever stole that much. But divisive speech, my goodness, I mean, there are many of these things that we're not supposed to do, which over the course of practice, they have lessened for me. I still do them, but they've become less. And so I can see that there is an improvement because of this particular path and because of this process that they suggest we go through. And it's not, it really isn't that difficult. It just takes doing it. It just takes considering it to be important enough to make the effort to do it regularly. So those are the things that are to be avoided, those 18 root infractions and the 46 secondary transgressions. So here now he's talking about what is to be cultivated. So what is to be cultivated is the practice of the 6 paramitas, or it's also called the 6 perfections. And these are 1, the practice of generosity, 2, the practice of ethics, 3, the practice of patience, 4, the practice of joyous effort or diligence, 5, the practice of meditative concentration, and finally 6, the practice of wisdom, the wisdom that realizes emptiness. The sequence of these 6 paramitas or 6 perfections starts with generosity, not wisdom. It would be very, very difficult for any beginner to practice wisdom immediately. They couldn't do it. I mean, just think about the kinds of discussions we've already had about the nature of reality. How long does it take? How many years does it take for us to finally go, maybe there really isn't an objective existence out there. All I have really is my subjective experience. And so it takes a lot of study, a lot of thinking, a lot of analysis. And we've done much of this in these classes, and I think many of us are seeing the value of that. So that would not be the first thing to start with when you're practicing these paramitas. So the first is generosity. Out of the 6 paramitas, generosity is the easier practice for the beginner. As for generosity, the concept is not how much you spend or how much you give. The real concept of generosity is how well we give, how completely we can give. This is very important. When we're talking about generosity, it consists of 4 features. And this was new information for me. So I assume it's new information for many of us. So generosity consists of 4 features. The first is the base. The second is attitude. Third is performance. And 4th is completion. Base, attitude, performance, and completion. These are the 4 aspects of generosity. For example, if you wish to give some food to a beggar on the street, the base is food. The food should be appropriate. It should be pure. That means the food should not have been stolen from another. This would make the food impure or inappropriate. The object or base must be appropriate. For example, the food or its ingredients should not be obtained in an unethical way, such as stealing, robbing, or this kind of thing. So it should be pure. This is what is meant by the basis. Does that clear? Does that make sense? The second feature of generosity is attitude. And attitude is also then subdivided or comprised of 2 parts. So here are the 2 parts of attitude: motivation and perception. So going back to our example of being generous to a beggar with food, perception means the food is understood to be food. Now, that sounds a little funny. The food is understood to be, it's correctly perceived as what it is. It's food. If we think giving food is the same thing as giving money, or giving money is the same thing as giving food, that's a mistake. This is what we mean by perception. We have the correct perception of what it is we're giving. Motivation, which is the other part of the first feature of generosity. Motivation is also very important. If I give food to the beggar to help them, that's okay. If I give food to the beggar so I can have them come to my house and clean or do some work for me, that motivation is insincere. We should simply help that person motivated by compassion, thinking, may this food help him or her. The act of generosity is the aspiration of love and compassion, which is something amazing. And it's very, very important. So that's the proper attitude. So the proper attitude, again, has to do with perception. You know what you're giving to someone, why you're giving it. And the motivation is to be a benefit to them. That's the only reason. It's of love and compassion. And you can see how so often in the world, we taint everything we do, all of these generous acts we think we're engaging in, from, personally up to corporations. There's always something, attached to it. Something what we're getting out of it.
It could be used to make us look.
Exactly. Right.
Or look how nice I am.
Look how nice I am. Right. Exactly. There's a lot of that when we talk about corporate generosity.
Thinking about food, but in our culture, it's quite common, to want to drop off food at the food bank, and who gives away the things they love the most. You look through the things that are almost expired and that you'll never eat, and that's what you give away. When you bring all your shit to Goodwill, you're not giving away the things you cherish. You hold on to the things you cherish and you give them things you don't care about. That's not, neither of those
I admit to that.
Right.
That's
exactly.
just not generosity. It's transactional. You're allaying your own guilt instead of just throwing it away because you feel guilty that you spent the money. So at least you're doing it completely. I'm talking for myself. I go to Goodwill completely for my own reasons.
We all do this.
I'm not giving a thought to some poor person who wants to have my unused land.
So what we want to try to do is sort of turn that around, because if we then go back to what he said earlier, is that sentient beings are the cause of our attaining enlightenment. They are the cause. They are the cause of everything that is good in our life. Every achievement we have is due to sentient beings.
Yeah. And this whole reason, which you just was saying too, about giving for the right reasons, made me think, as I'm thinking, sentient beings being responsible for my achievement in this endeavor. How does that work other than I'm doing things because of their expectations? That's how I was thinking, but now this does make more sense.
So it's almost like we treat them in a completely different way now. Yeah, and this also includes the insects and the animals and everything. We see them as these precious beings that are helping us.
Yeah.
So we want to give them the best that we can.
Yeah.
It's really, I agree with him. It's amazing. It's really amazing. It's unbelievable. If you even have an inkling of a taste of this, it's unbelievable compared to what we've been doing so far. It's just really okay. So he said, this is amazing, and this is called attitude. That's attitude. That's the second. That's the is that the second or the first aspect? That's the second aspect of generosity. The first is the base. The third feature of generosity is performance. and I think this goes to what you were saying. Sometimes we give money or food to another as if they are lesser than us. And what Geshe Nima did, he said, sometimes, there'll be a beggar on the street, and this is very typical in, say, Dharamsala in India. Just you'll throw it like that. The people will just throw it at the beggar. It's like, oh, here, have this. There's no, direct connection or love or compassion or respect for the beggar. It's more like, oh, just get out of my way. Here's some money. It's like that. That was the gesture he was giving. So sometimes we give money or food to another as if they are lesser than us. We should be generous to that person with respect, kindness, and consideration. If we speak with that person, we should use nice words out of sincerity and compassion. So if we're trying to be generous, performance is very important. This is what performance means. To me, it's like, see them exactly for who they are and the importance they have in your own life, no matter who it is, no matter what. And then I think we can really generate some actual respect and sincerity, if not love and compassion.
Well, Lama Song used to make a point of this, and it seems relevant here, which is it's not generosity if you're giving somebody something they don't need.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't put it exactly that way, but
right.
Yeah.
If they need food, give them food. If they need money, give them money. If they really need clothes, give them clothes, and give them good clothes.
If you're a wealthy doctor and you buy your child a Camaro for their high school graduation,
it's not. They don't need it.
Yeah.
They don't need it. And we can see the problem.
But there's variations on
Yeah,
that. But
right.
And he would say, help somebody in the way they want to be helped. Is the way he would say.
Yeah.
It's not generosity if they don't want what you're.
Right, and that would be all part of that performance aspect.
That's this whole thing where we think we know better than they do what they need.
Right. And we think we know better because we think we are better. This is the self-centered attitude. Yeah. I'm the center of the universe and I know what's going on. That's good. That's ego. That's where the ego really would like to be, right? Okay, the last feature of generosity is called completion. So we had base, attitude, performance, and now completion. Once we've given something to someone, we should feel satisfaction. No regrets, no need for anything in return. Sometimes people give something to someone else with conditions. And this is just this condition is benign compared to some of them. So the example he gave is, say, I'll give my watch to you. If you accept it, I have one condition, that you don't give the watch to another person. Because it's meant for you, not somebody else. You don't give it to another person. So it's as if we're still trying to hold on to control of the thing that we have given away. This is an incomplete practice of giving. Once we give something to someone else, it belongs to them. It's not ours. We don't have any right to tell them what they should do with something that now belongs to them. When we give something to someone, because of that act of generosity, the person feels happy with some kind of joy in their mind. Maybe that person will give the thing you gave them to another person. That act of generosity may make that other person even more happy. So your act of generosity creates even more virtue over and over, and you can appreciate that. So don't attach rules to your generosity. When we're talking about the practice of generosity, This is one type. So there are different types of generosity. So this is the practice of giving resources or material things. There's a second type of generosity, which is giving protection and refuge. Sometimes we give protection by saving another being's life. It could be a human, it could be an ant. Or we may protect something that is very, very precious, that has meaning to many people, to others. For example, say a very rare and holy scripture or sacred book is in danger of being ruined. So you build a stupa and you put the book inside that stupa where it is in a safe and protected place. This is also the practice of giving protection and refuge. Or, out of compassion, we provide the refuge and protection of shelter and food for another being. There are many ways of being generous through giving protection and refuge. So that's a second type of giving or generosity. Giving protection and refuge. A third type of generosity is the giving of virtues or the giving of dharma. What that means is teaching the dharma. It doesn't mean you have to be a great geshe or a monk or a Buddhist scholar. Teaching means, that type of generosity means that even if you know only one stanza of dharma that is meaningful or useful to you, you try to help others understand this one stanza. So you might say something like, the Buddha taught this. If you follow this advice, it may help you in your day-to-day life. Very simple. And this may help them to change their behavior or thinking a little bit. This is also the giving of dharma. Dharma activities, so it's like the giving of dharma, that kind of spiritual counseling or activities you may do related to teachings that you understand. That's giving the dharma. That's a way of giving the dharma. Through the practice of these three aspects of generosity of giving food and resources or material things, the generosity of giving protection and refuge, and the generosity of giving the dharma or giving, what would be the dharma? Wisdom and spiritual wisdom. Through this, little by little, when we practice these three aspects of generosity, little by little, we can change and become more kind, more compassionate, and more loving. It changes us. When we do it in the proper way, we become more compassionate, more kind, more loving, more authentically these ways. So what we're doing with this, remember, this is the first paramita. This is the easiest one for sentient beings to practice. So this is what he's getting at. This is why he's going into this detail with generosity. It's the first paramita. So what we're doing with this first paramita, this first perfection, is we're laying the foundation for these qualities of kindness, compassion, and love to develop within us. We're laying the foundation for that to develop within us. If we can practice generosity properly, then we become qualified to practice ethical morality and discipline. So generosity is first. We develop some compassion, love, and kindness, and then we go to the ethics. Because of our practice with generosity, it shapes us a little bit mentally, physically, and verbally to be kind and compassionate. When we talk about ethics from the Buddhist perspective, and we'll just end here. Actually, maybe we'll just end here. We'll go into ethics next time. So we covered the first paramita. So because it's 12:30, 12:29. So I think that was so interesting to me. It's so valuable what he taught. And I'm so glad that we have it, because that was new information. Subdividing generosity into these different categories. It's not like we didn't maybe sort of have an inkling about that, but to see it very specifically laid out there is I think very interesting and helpful. And it will inform, I know it will inform me if I practice it. It will form the way I go about being generous.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any comments? No?
Thank you
Okay.
for your generosity.
May we all speedily attain enlightenment so we can, get this thing on the road.
Maybe be gushing generosity.
Gushing, we'd be geysers of generosity this week. In the proper way. So want to do closing prayers?
Okay. So reflect back on things that you heard in this meeting today. And think about a few things. Try to zero in your mind. We're not going to recite the prayers, so you can set those aside. We're going to just think about what we listened to today and call to mind something that you remember that struck a chord. So think about that for a moment. And think that may this thought about Dharma, may it transform my behavior as I go forward from this day on. May this thought penetrate all of my actions of body, speech, and mind so that I live it. I don't leave it just here in the class until next week or just some thought that passes through my mind here and there, but I actually am going to take this thought that I heard here today that touched me or that resonated with me, and I'm going to live into it. I'm going to practice it. And I'm going to practice it for the sake of all sentient beings. And it will grow and grow inside of me. And I will be new and changed. And then just a quick recollection that in all my lifetimes, may I never be separated from true Dharma and true teachers, and completing this path eventually through all of its stages, may I attain the state of Buddhahood. So think that for yourself, for the sake of all sentient beings. Amen. Hallelujah.
Thank you. Okay, good friends. Until next
Quiz
time.
next week.
Yeah, quiz. Oh.
So we're going to find out by a quiz next week what thought you have completely embodied in 7 days or less.
Oh yeah, this is our that's our task. Embody
And
something.
not only that, I can see Claudia's wondering what's the prize. Okay, Claudia, there will be an official framed award for whoever wins.
Oh, I don't know. All right. Well, I'm just given that. I'm going to end this recording.
All right. Adios.